This Valentine's Day, Nathan didn't prepare a romantic dinner like he did every year. Instead, an unexpected message popped up on his phone. His wife Charlotte had made a reservation at an upscale restaurant. This surprised Nathan. Normally, he was the one who handled these things. Charlotte never really cared about Valentine's Day, and if she did, Nathan would be the one to make arrangements. Nathan reread the message, unable to shake a lingering question. Why did she book a reservation this year? Is there something special? Throughout the day, Nathan didn't receive any messages or reminders from Charlotte about their plans. It was unusual, but he didn't think too much of it. Maybe she wanted to surprise him. Nathan wrapped up work early that afternoon, wanting to head home and change before meeting his wife. However, as night fell, another message from Charlotte came through. "Sorry, I have to work overtime tonight. We'll meet another time." Nathan slowly reread the message. A strange feeling rose in his chest. Charlotte was an ambitious woman. Her work always came first. Missing special occasions wasn't new for her, but this time she had been the one to make the reservation, only to cancel it herself. Something didn't feel right. Nathan considered texting back to ask, but then he stopped. If Charlotte had already made up her mind, he didn't want to bother her. To pass the time, Nathan picked up his phone and scrolled through social media. And that's when he saw something that made his heart tighten. A post on WhatsApp. Matthew, Charlotte's colleague, had just posted a picture from the restaurant. In the image, Charlotte sat across from him smiling. She wore the necklace Nathan had given her that morning, and on the table sat the bottle of wine Nathan had bought for their anniversary dinner. The caption on Matthew's post immediately caught Nathan's attention. "Only a devoted sister knows how to spoil someone. A fancy restaurant, a sweet person. But tonight's cake isn't as sweet as those lips." Nathan stared at the picture. This wasn't just a simple dinner between colleagues. He recognized the restaurant right away. It was the place where he had proposed to Charlotte. It was also where they had celebrated many important milestones over the years. And tonight, Charlotte sat there with another man. Nathan didn't react immediately. If this had happened before, he might have called Charlotte to confront her, demanding an explanation. But this time, he just felt exhausted. The anger didn't come boiling to the surface like it used to. Instead, a cold disappointment settled over him. He no longer wanted to argue or find excuses. Maybe the answer was already too clear. That night, Nathan didn't leave the house. He sat on the couch, staring at his phone screen. He didn't text Charlotte. He didn't call her. He did nothing. Instead, he ordered takeout and added mango, a fruit he had avoided for years because of Charlotte's allergy. Since the day they got married, he had never brought mango into the house, knowing even slight exposure could cause a reaction for her. But tonight, there was no reason to hold back. He ate the mango slowly, bite by bite. The sweet and sour taste filled his mouth, but he felt nothing but emptiness. Late at night, Charlotte came home. She quietly opened the door, probably thinking Nathan was already asleep. But as she stepped into the living room, she saw her husband sitting on the couch. Mango peels scattered across the table. Charlotte frowned slightly. "You're still awake?" Nathan didn't look up. He simply cut another slice of mango and put it in his mouth. "Yeah, you're home late." Charlotte's frown deepened. "You know, mango makes me break out." Nathan shrugged. "I know." A long silence stretched between them. Charlotte set her bag down on the table and pulled out a small gift box. "I got you something," she said softly. Nathan glanced at it. It was a Patek Philippe watch, a luxurious, expensive gift. "Happy Valentine's Day, love," Charlotte said with a sweet smile, as if nothing had happened. Nathan quietly picked up the box, turning it over in his hands. An expensive gift, was that supposed to make up for everything? But some things couldn't be fixed with material things. Charlotte stepped closer, leaning down and gently placing her hand on Nathan's shoulder. "It's late. Why don't we go to bed?" she murmured, her voice soft and inviting. She moved closer, tilting her face toward him, her lips inches from his cheek. But just before she could kiss him, Nathan turned his head away. "I just ate a mango," he said calmly. "You wouldn't want an allergic reaction, would you?" Charlotte froze, her eyes flickering with something uncertainty hesitation. Nathan stood up, placing the gift box on the table without opening it. "I'm going to bed." Without another word, he walked away, leaving Charlotte standing alone. Stepping into the bedroom, Nathan locked the door. He lay down on the bed, staring at the ceiling. For the first time in years, he didn't feel pain when thinking about Charlotte. There was only one thought in his mind. Maybe it's time to let go. The next morning, Nathan woke up earlier than usual. The dim light filtering through the window cast soft shadows across the room, but it brought him no warmth. The emptiness from the night before still lingered, though. Now it felt somewhat lighter. He stepped out of the bedroom and saw Charlotte sitting on the sofa, a cup of coffee in her hand. She wore a white silk blouse, her hair falling loosely around her shoulders, elegant and composed as always. When she saw him, she smiled, but that smile no longer felt familiar. "You're up early," she said, her voice as gentle as ever. Nathan didn't reply. He walked to the kitchen, poured himself a glass of water, and took a small sip before turning back to look at Charlotte. She acted as if nothing had happened. Nathan slowly set his glass down on the table, his gaze unwavering. "You came home late last night." Charlotte blinked before nodding casually. "Yeah, work has been hectic. The company is going public soon, so I've had to put in extra hours." Nathan remained silent, observing her for a long moment. Finally, his voice came out calm, devoid of emotion. "Really so much work that you had time to have dinner with Matthew." The air in the room grew tense in an instant. Charlotte froze for a second before setting her coffee cup down. Her eyes flickered, but she quickly regained her usual composure. "What are you talking about?" she asked, her tone even. Nathan crossed his arms, leaning against the kitchen counter. "I saw the photo of you and Matthew on WhatsApp. You two had a great night, didn't you?" Charlotte opened her mouth as if to say something, but then closed it again. A brief look of uncertainty flashed across her face, but it was soon replaced by her usual confidence. "Matthew forgot to book a reservation, and I happened to have one. He just asked for a favor, that's all, it's nothing." Nathan let out a dry chuckle, one that held no amusement. "Is that so? Then can you explain why you were wearing the necklace I gave you, and why the wine I bought for you was sitting on your table?" Charlotte parted her lips but found no words. Nathan shook his head, his voice carrying a quiet disappointment. "I don't care if you were with Matthew or not. What I care about is how little respect you have for me, how easily you can lie to my face without hesitation." For the first time, Charlotte looked slightly uneasy. "Nathan, I'm not lying to you. It was just dinner." "Have you ever really loved me?" Nathan interrupted. Charlotte stared at him, taken aback by the question. "What are you saying? Of course I love you," she said quickly. Nathan gave a bitter chuckle. "And now?" Charlotte opened her mouth again, but this time she hesitated. That hesitation said everything. Nathan let out a deep sigh. "I think we both already know the answer." Charlotte clenched her hands into fists, conflict evident in her eyes. "Nathan, I don't know anymore." Nathan let out a hollow laugh at her admission. It was a laugh filled with nothing but bitterness. "I think that's enough for me." Nathan didn't argue further. He stood up, walked to the closet, and began packing his suitcase. Charlotte watched in shock. "What are you doing?" she asked, her voice uneasy. Nathan didn't look at her. "I have a business trip to take." Charlotte frowned. "What do you mean? You turned down that opportunity before, didn't you?" Nathan zipped up his suitcase and turned to face her. "I turned it down because I thought you needed me to stay, but it seems I was wrong." Charlotte was speechless. Nathan grabbed his suitcase and walked toward the door, but before he left, he turned back to look at her one last time. "I used to believe we would be together forever, but now I realize that some things just can't be forced." Charlotte opened her mouth as if wanting to say something, but Nathan was already gone. As the door closed behind him, Charlotte felt a terrifying realization settle over her. For the first time in her life, Nathan was no longer chasing after her. Nathan sat in the taxi staring out the window. The city was as busy as ever, but for him, everything seemed to move slowly, uncertainly. He no longer felt anger or disappointment. There was only one cold truth: Charlotte had changed, and perhaps so had he. The cold morning breeze made him instinctively pull his coat tighter. His mind drifted back to the past, to a time when their love was untouched by life's burdens. Nathan vividly remembered the first time he met Charlotte. They were not lovers at first sight. Their relationship started quietly, no dramatic confessions, no grand romantic gestures. Back then, Charlotte was reserved, a little distant, and carried an air of quiet confidence, but it was precisely her calmness that drew Nathan in. The first time Charlotte ever touched him was on a cold winter morning when a sudden earthquake struck. As chaos erupted, people frantically rushed outside. Nathan stumbled in the crowded hallway, nearly falling beneath the stampede. Amid the panic, Charlotte turned back. She didn't run away, she didn't abandon him. Instead, she fought her way through the crowd, using all her strength to pull him up. "Get up. If you hesitate, neither of us will make it out." Her voice rang out firm and unwavering. Nathan would never forget the look in her eyes that day. No fear, no hesitation. She clutched his hand tightly and pulled him out of the collapsing building just in time before the ceiling caved in. Once they were safe, Nathan gasped for breath, looking at Charlotte with gratitude. "Weren't you scared?" Charlotte shook her head. "I didn't think about it. I just knew that if you were trapped, I wouldn't want to leave you behind." Those simple words etched themselves into Nathan's heart. At that moment, he knew this was the girl he wanted to spend his life with. Over the years, they naturally grew closer. Their university days were filled with cherished memories. Charlotte was never the type to openly express affection, but she showed her love in her own quiet ways. If he was sick, she would leave medicine on his desk without saying a word. If he stayed up late studying, there would be a fresh cup of coffee waiting for him in the morning. Their love was simple, not flashy, not loud, but strong and unwavering. But then, things began to change. After getting married, Charlotte became busier. She became distant. Work became her top priority. Their dinner dates grew fewer. Their conversations became shorter. Nathan wasn't an unreasonable man. He knew Charlotte had ambitions, that she had big career goals. He always supported her, always tried to be the understanding husband. But no matter how much he compromised, the distance between them only grew. There were nights when he was sick, lying alone in bed, and she didn't even notice. There were days when he wanted to share something that happened, but all he got was a distracted, As she scrolled through her phone, busy with work, Nathan began to feel like a stranger in his own marriage. And then Matthew appeared. Maybe Charlotte hadn't intended to betray him at first, but Nathan understood one thing. There was now an invisible gap between them, not because of a single event, not because of one mistake, but because love changes over time. If Charlotte still loved him, she wouldn't have used work as an excuse to deceive him. She wouldn't have gone to their special restaurant with another man. She wouldn't have looked him in the eye and lied so effortlessly. The moment Nathan saw the picture of her and Matthew online, he realized Charlotte was no longer the girl who once ran against the crowd to save him during the earthquake. She didn't need him anymore, and he didn't want to be the weak one in this marriage anymore. The taxi pulled up at the airport. Nathan stepped out, inhaling deeply. He pulled out his phone and dialed his boss's number. "Hey boss, I've reconsidered your offer." "Good, so you're accepting the job." For the first time in years, Nathan felt like he was making the right choice. "Yes, I'll start right away." He had turned this opportunity down before because he didn't want to be away from Charlotte. He had been afraid she wouldn't like having a husband who was constantly busy traveling for work, rarely home. But now he realized something. His presence no longer mattered to her, and he had no reason to stay. Back at home, Charlotte sat on the sofa staring at her now cold cup of coffee. Nathan was gone. She never thought he would leave so quickly. No arguments, no shouting, no pleas, just turning away and walking out the door. For the first time in her life, Charlotte felt truly uneasy, not because she was afraid of losing Nathan, but because she realized he no longer belonged to her. And the most painful truth of all this time, even if she turned back to look for him, he wouldn't be there waiting. Charlotte drove home in a state of anxiety. She'd been trying to call Nathan all day, but all she got was the cold, automated response from his voicemail. "The number you have dialed is currently unavailable." She reassured herself that maybe he was just busy. Maybe he just needed space after their conversation that morning. But deep down, her unease was growing. When she unlocked the door and stepped inside, Charlotte immediately felt an eerie emptiness. She glanced around. Everything seemed normal, but something was missing. She quickly headed toward the bedroom. Nathan's closet was empty. She froze. The worry in her chest started morphing into real panic. She rushed to the drawer where Nathan kept his important documents, and the moment her eyes landed on the papers neatly placed on the desk, she knew things were spiraling out of control. Divorce papers. Nathan had already signed them. Charlotte felt a wave of dizziness wash over her. She collapsed onto the chair, gripping the papers, her hands shaking so badly she almost dropped them. She had never once thought that Nathan would actually leave her. Never. He had always been patient, always forgiving, no matter how many times she had neglected him. But this time, he wasn't coming back. She frantically dialed his number again. Only a long ring. Then voicemail. She sent a text, "Nathan, I know I was wrong this morning, but can we at least talk? Let's come home and figure this out." No response. Charlotte began feeling a fear she had never felt before. Before she could gather herself, her phone rang. It was a colleague from work. "Charlotte, are you okay?" Charlotte frowned. "I'm fine. Why are you asking?" There was hesitation on the other end. "Have you checked social media?" A cold chill ran down Charlotte's spine. She quickly opened her phone, clicked on social media, and it felt like someone had punched her in the chest. A post had gone viral exposing her and Matthew photos screenshots of their messages. The caption was sharp mocking. Some people spend their youth waiting only to be given a one-way ticket out of someone's life. It didn't name her directly, but everyone knew. Comments flooded in. She always seemed so perfect, but I guess we never really know people. A married woman having dinner with her subordinate? What a disgrace. I used to admire her, not anymore. Charlotte shivered. She had never cared much about what people said about her. But this time she knew things had gone too far. She wasn't just losing Nathan. She could be losing her career, everything she had worked for. She rushed out of the house, gripping the steering wheel tightly. She had to find Nathan. When she couldn't find him at work or any of his usual spots, Charlotte had only one place left to go, his mother's house. Standing in front of the door, she clenched her car keys tightly, trying to steady her breath before knocking. A moment later, the door opened. Nathan's mother stood there. She didn't look surprised to see Charlotte, but the warmth in her eyes was gone. "What are you doing here?" Her voice was low, yet firm. Charlotte swallowed hard, forcing herself to speak. "Mom, is Nathan here?" She shook her head. "He's gone." Charlotte's heart dropped. Gone where? Nathan's mother stared at her for a long moment before answering. "He didn't say. But even if he did, I don't think you have the right to know." Charlotte felt a sharp sting in her chest. Nathan's mother had always loved her. She had always treated her like a daughter. But now her eyes were cold. "I'm sorry." Charlotte's voice trembled. "I know I made mistakes, but I need to see him. I need to apologize. I just want..." Nathan's mother cut her off. Her tone was unwavering. If you truly wanted to keep him, you wouldn't have let things go this far. Charlotte had no response. She knew it was the truth. Nathan had loved her with everything he had. He had sacrificed so much for her. And what had she done? She had pushed him away over and over again. It wasn't until he truly left that she realized she had lost him. Nathan's mother let out a quiet sigh. "Go home, Charlotte. If you still respect him, then let him live a life without you in it." And with that, the door shut in her face. Charlotte stood there frozen. The night air was cold, but her heart felt even colder. She had lost Nathan. And this time, he wasn't coming back. Far away, Nathan sat on the plane. He gazed out the window, watching as the city below grew smaller and smaller. He knew Charlotte was probably looking for him. She was probably filled with regret. But Nathan also knew something even more important. He no longer cared. Some loves are worth sacrificing for. Some loves are worth forgiving. But some loves are meant to be left behind. Nathan closed his eyes. The plane carried him toward a new life. No more Charlotte. No more past. Only him and the road ahead. Charlotte drove aimlessly through the streets, her mind completely blank. Everything had happened too fast, too suddenly. She still couldn't believe it. Nathan was truly gone. He wasn't here to argue with her anymore. He wasn't patiently waiting for her to realize her mistakes. This time, he wasn't coming back. She pulled over in front of a familiar coffee shop, the one she and Nathan used to spend hours in talking about work life and their dreams for the future. But today, when she walked inside, everything felt different. She was no longer the respected, successful woman everyone admired. She was just a failure, a woman who had lost her husband and her dignity. She ordered a cup of coffee, but as she picked it up, she realized her hands were shaking. Her phone rang. A message from an old colleague. "Charlotte, have you seen this morning's paper?" She frowned and opened her browser. Immediately, headlines flooded her screen. Senior executive caught having an affair with subordinate, the cost of career and marriage. When success doesn't mean morality. Lessons from Charlotte's scandal. From role model to most hated woman in the company, Charlotte's heart clenched. She never imagined things would explode like this. She didn't just lose Nathan. She could lose her career. The next morning when she walked into the office, the atmosphere had shifted. People whispered. Some looked at her with judgment. Others avoided her gaze entirely. She tried to remain calm, pretending everything was normal, but she knew she wasn't welcome here anymore. Then before she even had time to sit down, a new email notification appeared. Urgent meeting, board of directors summon. She took a deep breath. She knew her nightmare was just beginning. That afternoon, Matthew asked to meet. Charlotte agreed, hoping that at least he was still on her side. But when she arrived at the cafe, one look at him told her she was wrong. Matthew looked tense, as if he hadn't slept in days. When he saw Charlotte, he forced a smile. "Are you okay?" he asked, but his voice lacked warmth. Charlotte sat down exhausted. Do you think I would be? Matthew sighed. I know this is hard, but we have to be realistic, Charlotte. She frowned. What do you mean? He hesitated before finally speaking. The board called me in this morning. They said I might be fired because of everything that happened. Charlotte clenched her fists. Then, we'll face it together. I'm suffering from this too, but I can't lose you now. Matthew looked away. Charlotte, I think we should take some time apart. His words hit her like a punch to the chest. Her voice shook. What are you saying? We've been through everything together and now you want to leave? Matthew bit his lip, avoiding her eyes. I don't want to leave, but think about it. The company is watching our every move. If we stay together publicly, it'll only make things worse. Charlotte felt a bitter anger rise inside her. So what you're really saying is, you're more afraid of losing your job than losing me. Matthew didn't answer, and that silence said everything. Charlotte let out a dry, bitter laugh. So when everything was great, you chased after me. You did everything to have me. But now that the storm has hit, you're the first one to run. Matthew didn't respond, but the guilt on his face was unmistakable. Charlotte stood up. She looked at him one last time, her voice steady. Thank you for being honest, but I don't need a man who only thinks about himself. And then she walked away. And in that moment she realized she had gambled everything on something completely worthless. Back at home, Charlotte opened her phone. She stared at Nathan's number and she sent one final message. Nathan, if I could turn back time, I would never have done something so foolish. I'm sorry. A few seconds later, a red exclamation mark appeared. Nathan had blocked her. Charlotte stared at the screen. Nathan wasn't giving her another chance. He was truly gone, and this time he had no intention of returning. She sank onto the sofa, her eyes empty. She once thought she could have everything. A successful career, a thrilling romance, a stable marriage. But now she had nothing. Everything had collapsed because of one mistake she could never take back. And the scariest part, she had to live with it for the rest of her life. 6 months after Nathan left their home, Charlotte finally understood her world had collapsed. She was no longer the strong, independent woman she once prided herself on being. Her career was gone, her reputation was ruined. Her friends had distanced themselves, everyone had turned their back on her, and Matthew, the man she once thought was her new home, had disappeared without a trace after realizing she had nothing left to offer. Now she was alone. Alone in an empty house, and she wasn't even sure if she could keep it. But the worst part, Nathan no longer cared about her. He had erased her from his life completely. She had tried reaching out to him, calling from different numbers, sending emails. Everything was blocked. For the first time in her life, Charlotte truly understood what loss meant. Finally, the day Charlotte dreaded the most arrived, their official divorce trial. She walked into the courtroom, her heart pounding, her hands clammy with nerves. Nathan was already there. He sat with his lawyer, calm and composed. No anger, no bitterness, only finality. Today they would end more than 10 years of marriage. Charlotte's lawyer argued that she deserved to keep the house because she had contributed the majority of the finances when purchasing it. Her name was the primary one on the mortgage agreement. She needed a stable home after the divorce. Nathan remained silent for a long moment. Then he simply said, "I don't want the house. I just want this to be over." His words hit Charlotte harder than she expected. She had prepared for a fight, maybe even a desperate plea from him, something to show that he still cared, but he had already let go, and that hurt more than anything. However, even though Nathan didn't fight her for it, his lawyer made a clear proposal. If Charlotte wants to keep the house, she must pay Nathan half of its total value. That meant she would have to come up with a significant sum of money. And the problem was, Charlotte no longer had the financial stability to do so. After hours of legal arguments, the court reached a decision: the house would be sold, and the profits split equally. All marital assets would also be divided, 50-50ths. No alimony would be granted because the marriage had ended due to her betrayal. Charlotte felt dizzy. She had hoped to keep at least one thing from their marriage, at least the house, but now she had nothing. Nathan walked out of the courthouse and took a deep breath. For the first time in years, he felt free. No more burden of a broken marriage, no more pain of betrayal. He was truly moving on. He used his half of the money from the house sale to start over in a new place. Meanwhile, Charlotte had to pack up her things and leave the home that was once their sanctuary. She stepped out of the courthouse feeling empty. She looked at Nathan one last time, but he didn't even glance back. He simply walked away without hesitation. Charlotte moved into a smaller, cheaper apartment. Every morning she woke up feeling heavy, the weight of someone who had lost everything. She tried reaching out to old colleagues, old friends. No one wanted to be associated with her. One day she passed by her old house. It had new owners. She stood at the doorstep staring at it. It was no longer hers. That life was over. She remembered Nathan standing in the doorway, smiling at her. He had loved her so much, and she had thrown it all away. Somewhere far away, Nathan was starting fresh. A new city, a new future. And for the first time, he felt no regrets. He didn't hate Charlotte. He wasn't even angry anymore. He simply didn't care. And that was the greatest revenge of all. Because nothing makes a person regret more than seeing someone they once took for granted living happily without them. Charlotte once believed Nathan would always be there, that no matter what she did, he would forgive her. She was wrong. Nathan had chosen to let go of the past and chase a new future. And Charlotte, she had lost everything over a mistake she could never take back. In the end, the real question wasn't, would Nathan ever forgive her? It was, when you lose someone who truly loved you, is there anything in the world that can replace them? Charlotte knew the answer. Unfortunately, the answer had come too late. Never take for granted the people who love and sacrifice for you. Happiness isn't just about success or money. It's about who stands beside you through it all. When you lose a love that was real, nothing can ever bring it back. What do you think about this story? Leave your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.